Most of you are doing a pretty decent job of that. All right. Keep paying attention, take these notes, and don't be afraid to ask questions at the end of the period of instruction. All right, again, let me familiarize you with my board. Okay, up here, or on the left-hand side here, we have the administrative notes. All right, follow along with those. All right, some people like to write them down. I have copies of them. I think most of them are actually in your Ranger handbooks for those notes, which is nice. They didn't have that when I was in Ranger school. They had to literally write everything down in order to get it. It was very tiresome. All right, in the center here, we have squad column, fire team, wedge. All right, again, reacting to contact. Right, we have the notional support by fire team. All right, and then we have the enemy's location. All right, now the difference that you guys will see between this break contact, all right, and the actual squad attack is one, this moves backwards. Right, you get that basic fire element set, and then you bound back, and then the other is that the basic fire elements change. All right, they flip flop. Okay, so the senior guy or the junior guy in that team isn't always in charge of that larger element. All right. So the squad, all right, reacts to contact, assesses the situation, and considers the options outlined in the react to contact drill. Does anybody have those written down? Everybody have those options written down, those 7 options, and then the 4 with respect to indirect? I think they're in your Ranger handbooks again. All right, they're the exact same. All right, you assess the situation, and then that squad leader in this case determines that he needs to go ahead and break contact. All right, some of the reasons he might need to break contact, all right, is if you're up against a sniper. All right, it's incredibly difficult to effectively maneuver against something you can't see. All right, you really can't do it. All right, the squad's mission calls for avoiding contact. All right, maybe you're doing a peacekeeping mission, right? And really, they just want you to break contact and avoid any confrontations with the locals. I know my current unit in the Georgia National Guard, the HCO 121 LURS, they went to Kosovo and they actually took contact from across the border one time, and they had to break contact from it. They weren't allowed to engage across the border. I probably was still shot, but that's just me. All right. The squad is outnumbered or in a vulnerable position. All right. Maybe you're down in the valley and the enemy has you surrounded on 3 sides with these big cliffs. All right. That happened a lot in Afghanistan. All right. Maybe you're stuck in the bottom of a wadi, or maybe you're moving through a village, and all of a sudden, like, every house in the village turns into a support by fire position for the enemy. Right? Bad situation. Don't want to fight in that. Or the enemy has overwhelming firepower, like a cruiser weapon, or maybe even, if we ever fight Russia, like, you'll probably see some tanks out there. Right? Don't want to fight a tank with a dismount squad. Right? Fucking Fury tried to do it and it didn't work out all that well. All right, so based on the squad leader's assessment, all right, that met TC in his past experiences, all right, as well as possibly even guidance from higher, okay, because sometimes they can stick their nose in it. All right, he decides that he needs to break contact. That squad leader tells the lead fire team, the team in contact, in this case Alpha team, that they, all right, are the initial base of fire element. All right, their job again is to increase that rate of fire, all right, utilize those fire commands, okay, and achieve fire superiority over the enemy. All right. The squad leader then, once again, considers the placement of that machine gun team. All right, but the placement of that machine gun team is a little different this time. Obviously, in squad attack, they're not going to go with the maneuver element. All right. Anybody ever bounded with a machine gun? Fucking sucks. All right. But he needs to consider, all right, where to place that machine gun team and why that's the best placement for it. Okay. 1, all right, if he moves that machine gun forward, it may become decisively engaged. If the machine gun becomes decisively engaged, then they can no longer break contact, right? Because they can't effectively they can't pick up their machine gun and run away while the enemy's shooting at their back. That doesn't make any sense. All right. The other is that machine gun is really slow to break contact. Okay, it's a heavy gun. All right, the AG, the AB, however many guys you have attached to that gun team, all right, are carrying rounds, tripod, all right, and that gun weighs what, 27.6 pounds, right? Thing's heavy. They're slow to move. All right. Also, because they're slow to move, if the enemy maneuvers quickly on them, okay, then they could go ahead and overwhelm that machine gun position, and then your squad is losing their most casualty producing weapon, right? Which you don't want to do. Let alone the weapon, but you don't want to lose the men either, right? All right, once he's decided where to place that machine gun team, okay, so in this case, he's actually placing it with that initial maneuver element, all right? The squad leader moves to the trail fire team, so the team not in contact, all right? So again, if this was flip-flopped and they were taking contact from the rear, all right, then this would be the initial support by fire element, and this would be the initial maneuver element, right? Moves to that trail fire team, tells that team leader his team's the initial maneuver element, and then he gives him direction, distance, and an identifiable terrain feature to move to. Why do you think he does this?
They all go to the same place.
So they all have a...
All right, so they all go to the same place. All right, think about some vehicle stuff. Like you guys are going to be using strikers, right? Right?
Right.
Okay. So if you have your vehicles bounding back, right, and you have one bound back this way and one bound back this way, you're making those alternating or successive bounds, and you're still relatively online, and your sectors of fire are still not limited. What if those guys decide, all right, well that's the best cover and concealment I can move to, so I'm going to go ahead and bound back this way. They can no longer lay down any kind of suppressive fire for when this element becomes the maneuver element, right? You guys remember in basic training you had those like little lanes set up and you're like, cover me while I move, and then you're like set and you start engaging the enemy, and then the next person, there's a reason, all right, that those lanes are like that, and it's to prevent a bunch of young, dumb fucking privates in basic training from shooting each other in the back, right? But it's not just young, dumb privates that can do that, right? If you don't move to the right spot on the battlefield, right, a senior team leader or even a squad leader could possibly do that, right? You get excited, you think you can take the shot, you see the enemy, and then all of a sudden you have a friendly in front of you. So it gives that distance, that direction, distance, and identifiable feature to move to. All right, so 4 o'clock, 100 meters, big white oak tree, large rock. All right, prevents them from funneling, prevents them from moving behind, so that that other element has to maneuver through them. All right, it screens them. Right, that support fire location, all right, has to be effective against the enemy. All right, if you have excellent cover from that position, but you can't actually engage the enemy from there, it's not effective, right? If that squad leader has them bound back, 300 meters, okay, it's not effective anymore, right? That element cannot effectively engage those enemy at 300 meters. Okay? You want to keep it closer than within small arms range. All right? That's why it says 100 meters up there. Because if these guys are already 200 meters from the enemy, right, and you have this element bound back 300 meters, now you're looking at 500 or 600 meters to that enemy's position. How many of you guys can effectively engage a target with iron sights or CCO or ACOG at 500 or 600 meters? Anybody out here? Any fucking Chris Kyles? Nope. All right. So don't do it. All right. Short bounds. All right. Short, effective bounds. All right. Support by fire location position for effective use against the enemy. Then you got to consider the use of smoke or hand grenades. Right. In the event that the terrain you're on doesn't allow good cover, right, you can utilize that smoke to provide that cover while you maneuver. However, you got to be really careful when using smoke. It can backfire on you real quick. All right, if the wind's blowing in the wrong direction, it can potentially mask the fires of the other friendly element. And again, all right, that big F word, right? Not fuck, it's fratricide. Okay, you don't want fratricide. Once that team is online, all right, a team leader, or if the squad leader is maneuvering with them, all right, gives them left and right limits, all right, identifiable feature to avoid funneling. All right, they break contact. Once they've broken contact, all right, they go ahead and they set up online and they turn around, they face the enemy and they prepare to engage. All right, that squad leader needs to consider, all right, not only where to place the machine gun during the initial contact, but where to have that machine gun set up as they're maneuvering. All right, typically, he wants that machine gun in order to break contact effectively in between, all right, the maneuver element and the flanking element, all right, but as far back from the enemy as possible, where you can still maintain control over that element. All right, the reason being, again, is because that machine gun team is incredibly slow to move. It takes a lot longer to break contact, and it's your most important weapon system. He also needs to consider where the RTO is going to move in this, right? Is he going to leave him stationary with that machine gun element for a while, or is he going to have him bounding with him from element to element, all right? And then he needs to consider where to place himself, all right? Where's that squad leader going to be? Is he going to put himself up at that initial support by fire element, or is he going to maneuver the entire time with the maneuver element? Which is the most ideal, right? Because that moving piece, that squad leader wants to have control over them to prevent them from doing anything stupid in the heat of battle. So this continues to maneuver back this way, all right? It continues to leapfrog, all right, all the way back until one of these things happen, all right? You're no longer receiving effective fire from the enemy. You pass through a higher level of support by fire position, all right? So, i.e., if you break contact all the way back to your fob or your camp or whatever, all right, and you get inside that gate, then you no longer have to break contact, right? Or you reach the assigned location for your next mission, right? You don't want to continue maneuvering all the way back through your actual next objective or where your ORP is supposed to be, right? Once the squad is effectively broken contact, that squad leader has the squad move 300 meters or a major terrain feature away. All right, major terrain features, you know, most likely a hill, right? Because it conceals you from the enemy, okay? Once you've moved that distance, the squad leader again consolidates and reorganizes that squad the exact same way that he does it at the end of squad attack, all right? So he gets that 360-degree security set up, all right? He gets that ACE report from his team leaders. He reestablishes that chain of command, all right? Redistributes ammunition, remans any key weapon systems that you might have lost on that engagement, and then sends up that sit rep and possibly, if necessary, that Bravo team leader's emergency resupply request. All right. Once all this is done, once that consolidation and reorganization piece is done, all right, squad leader has the RTO call that sit rep up to higher, let them know what happened, their next course of action, and then they go ahead, they pick up, and they continue on mission.
I got a question.
Yes.
Do you typically want them to dogleg into their position, into their security hull?
After breaking contact?
After breaking contact?
It's not necessary. Like if that's your unit's SOP, we don't teach that in Ranger School, that's a tactic. We teach doctrinal battle drills.
Okay.
If your unit decides that you need to dogleg into your position after you take that contact. But typically, if you're gonna move a major terrain feature away, you're going to take the route that provides you the most cover and concealment, right? So you're actually going to kind of dogleg into it anyway. You're not just going to push up right over the top of that hill where you silhouette yourself and make yourself available to kind of, you know, forward observers or something like that. You're actually going to utilize the natural terrain to facilitate your movement to that position. Does that kind of clear that up a little bit? Kind of.
I mean, I'm just thinking if the enemy continues to, or just maneuver towards you as you're going backwards, I mean, you may get some breathing room, but
I mean, if the enemy is literally coming after you and chasing you, in this case, then that's when you're going to consider, you know, indirect fires, getting back to that higher level support by fire position, trying to get another friendly element in there to effectively help you disengage from the enemy. All right? It's a minimum of 300 meters that you're going to move, but its maximum is when you've broken contact. Any other questions, guys? Yes?
Can you explain the automatic weapons job once they are in contact with like their shooter back to their zone? Because when you were talking about when the team leader gets green light to break contact, how are the teams moving down and back and doing that? Are they moving the teams? Because when the automatic rifle goes to the rear,
Yeah, they're moving in, automatic rifle, you mean the machine gun?
Yeah.
All right, so the machine gun's gonna set up kind of its own little position, all right, either to the left or right of that element. Most likely, all right, to the right, so that they have that wider lane. But that machine gun's going to break contact with this element. All right, and then go ahead and just continue to set up where they're most effectively utilized. All right, and the squad leader is going to determine that as they continue to break contact. The automatic riflemen are just going to be organic with their team and just break contact with their team. Just to clarify, all right, while you're breaking contact, everybody's utilizing, that buddy team that I kind of explained, that, cover me while I move stuff, all right, utilizing that buddy team, that IMT, that basic training stuff that you guys learned however long ago, right? 3 to 5 second rush type stuff. You're not just gonna get up and, break contact, all right, yeah, cool, no, I'm good. Like you're actually gonna run, and bound, and dive, probably, scrape your shins or bust your knee or whatever. Any other questions? All right. Sure there's no more questions? Good stuff. All right, at this time, go ahead and take a 10-minute break. All right, it's 12.